Jane, on an average Monday, what kind of mail do you get in?
I measured it this Monday, just to give you an example, and it was 13 inches. And there were no big publications in there to take up a lot of space. I weed through it, and I'll have to say that I do look at it, everything that comes in. It is important, though, the way that letter is typed. If it's a personal letter, if it's personalized to me and it says Mr. Jane Eister, that raises an eyebrow a little bit. If there are a lot of typos in the letter, I immediately say to myself, this indicates to me a lack of caring on the hotel's part, and their convention services department immediately takes a plunge in my estimation, even though this poor convention services manager had nothing to do with this letter that came through the mail to me. If the material is mimeographed or offset, it will get less attention. And it's even important as to how those envelopes are stuffed as they come through to me, because my mail, it has already been opened, the envelope has been, disappears. And I think if you find that a lot of your mail houses doing your mailings for you, they're automatic folding machines, and they open the envelopes, and each piece, even though you're sending me, say, 5 different sheets of paper, each one's been separately shoved into that envelope. And I am therefore getting 5 different sheets of paper, and oftentimes they've been mixed up with some other pieces of mail by the time I receive it. It takes more time and obviously more money to hand fold that material or to staple it and then put it into an envelope, but at least then I'm reading it in the order in which you meant for me to read it.
How do you react to these fact-finding letters that come in, that, you know, suddenly they've got 3 years and say, tell us everything you know about your meetings?
I throw them out.
Sometimes I respond. It depends upon who it's coming from. It's like, maybe they'd honestly like to find out a few facts. Being with a trade association, we send out letters of inquiry for statistics and what have you. So I think you have to have a little sympathy at times, depending upon who's asking the fact-finding questions. The thing that I really get a little upset about with direct mail is the fact that, as I said, the machines have a stutter, and everyone in the office gets them. And I'm the end result of these things. No one throws them away. They all just say, D, for your information. And so Dee stacks these things up, and she could wallpaper a wall at times with these things. And if you don't answer them, you get the second letter. You haven't answered the first one. And then I get the second batch from everybody in the office. So I think that there should be more concentration on the makeup of the mailing lists, and real care in perhaps culling things, culling envelopes when you're getting letters which say, we'd love to have your business at the Hyatt New Orleans, and I've just had a 500-room meeting there. I'm a little concerned about that.
Have you ever considered a city and suddenly you've got 5 meetings on the book?
That's right. So
you call them immediately and say, my God, what happened?
Is it still on the books?
Right. I like the letter also that arrives that say, Dear Jane, I have no idea who this person is. I wrote to you 3 months ago on da-da-da date. Why haven't you responded to my letter? And I've received them in exactly that tone.
Do you respond at that point?
Sometimes.
How about mail down in Atlanta, Jerry?
Well, most of it that comes in, unfortunately, is garbage. It's superfluous information. It's not real information that I'm interested in. And I only, as Dee said, it's mimeographed, poorly mimeographed or offset. And that stuff just completely turns me. I can't even take time to even look at it. I just put it in file 13. I just refuse to take my time to even look at that type of...
Does that type of mail jade you into thinking of the hotel? If it's junk mail, it might be a junk hotel?
No, because I'm very open-minded about properties, because I've got a mission in life, and even though a piece of garbage comes in, I'll put that out of my mind because I want to see what the iron looks like in that particular property, because I've got to keep an open mind on that.
I'd like to back up on one thing that I said, and that was throwing out the surveys that come in. And I was referring not to the surveys coming in so much from the hotels, but from individuals opinion research type of marketing firms. I found it really doesn't matter how I answer some of those questions. I still find that I have booked a meeting in Newark, and I have yet to be to Newark.
Sales blitzes. What do you think of this? What is the best sales blitz technique that you've seen, and how effective are sales blitzes in your various cities? Anybody want to start with that one?
I'll say that there was, I think, a very effective one. Recently, I didn't participate now that I stop and think about it, but one of the hotel chains, and granted this was an expensive proposition for them, they brought in sales representatives from all of their firms. They had an opening reception, and then they took a large number of people to the Kennedy Center to see Chorus Line. They had a very good response to that particular sales blitz.
Well, another company that had a program, and I think we have to qualify what kind of a sales blitz we're talking about, whether it's a city blitz or it's an individual hotel blitz. A city blitz, I think, is sort of a fun and games, jolly good fellow. They're given 74 people to call on in 2 days, and it doesn't really gain very much for an individual hotel property because, in all honesty, the person calling on me is saying, I am representing Atlanta, and I really can't, sell, he certainly would, if he could, sell his own property and take an order. But it's kind of just a, in and out of the house situation. But I am a little bit more interested in these individual properties bringing in their people at one shot. And this other company, major chain, and I don't think there's any reason why we can't say who it was Westin. Hyatt happened to do the best job the first time, and now they're playing copycat. But what they did was they did tabletops at the Mayflower, and they had all of their major property people there. They had 2 people from each hotel. And they had I'm trying to think, it was a afternoon affair because they had cocktails and a buffet. Just a nice size. It was all over by 7 o'clock. It gave us a chance to say hello to a lot of people we don't get a chance to see if we don't go to ASAE or WSAE and what have you. It gave us time. There was enough time. They did not overburden it with too many people. We had a chance to talk. Each one had, if the director of sales was smart, he knew exactly what to zero in on his own property with, let's say, me. They had done a lot of homework, and they knew who was coming, and they knew what these people were looking for.
The one variation on that I liked was that they came to our cities, and when Hyatt did it, everybody went to Chicago. And it's a lot more difficult to slot out a day to fly out to Chicago and walk around than it is to suddenly go up and have a cocktail and walk around at a luncheon. But that's very effective because you get pushed off by somebody else, so it cuts down your time that you're standing there, and it doesn't become every one of them an hour visit.
For those of you who weren't with us 2 years ago at our sales meeting in Chicago, we did this. We had set up all the hotels with a different booth. We invited both travel agents and meeting planners in to visit us at the O'Hare Exposition Center. It was very successful, even though it was a snowy, cold day. So Western picked up on it and did it in Washington, I guess, last year, and in New York just recently. Right. Maybe we'll talk Mr. Kordsmeyer into doing it next year or something like that.
Bob, there's one kind of sales blitz that I think you probably get roped into at times and don't know how to handle it, and this would be the sales blitz that's organized by your Chamber of Commerce or some such group. Last year, I used to sell advertising door-to-door ad agencies in New York City, so I at one point did have a great deal of compassion for people who were making cold calls and did accept them. Last year at one point, I found myself talking to a clerk in the shoe department in a department store from Muskingum, Michigan, and he was there. He was that department store's donation to the sales blitz that was coming to town to sell Muskingum, Michigan. That was when I made the rule, no more cold calls.
You don't go to Muskegon very often?
No.
Can I ask a question, Bob? What is how effective are the sales blitzes that the hotels go on?
I really can't say. We basically don't believe in them, but if a city is going, we have to be part of the city, and like you say, sometimes you're roped into it. Dolores is right. It's a big party, usually big reception, and all that, and it's just it's like direct mail. How effective is it? You're spending a lot of money, and what is your results? One time, a number of years ago, I asked my boss if I could go to HSMA. I think it was in Mexico City. He said, "You can go if you want, but would you rather spend the money and go on a sales trip to New York?" And then he said, "Let your conscience be your guide." So I went to New York. As a group, what do you expect a salesperson to know about you and your organization before they come in for a sales call?
Perhaps one of the most difficult things I ran into recently, and it was, we went to the hotel, and the salesperson I knew, and I had one of my members with me. The makeup, the complexion of my group is 98% Jewish, and I think that this is something that it would be helpful for the salesman to know prior to my arrival. I sat at a meal in which the salesman made 3 extremely anti-Semitic remarks, and I can only say that how my members sat there and we finished that meal, I don't know. It took me approximately 10 minutes to be able to work the conversation around so that I was able to inform this salesman the complexion of our group. There was no apology or even an indication on his part, I don't think, that he was aware that this had happened.
Life's embarrassing moments.
Very much so.
Mr. Heath.
Well, you know, back up to when Marilyn Brown was up here, she did something that I made a note on, that she knew about, talked about gas and the energy and everything that Dee's organization is concerned with. And I think it's the same thing, that you know, you ought to know a little bit about the organization that you're calling on, and as I said earlier, know that we aren't heavy in exhibits, we're heavy in meetings, that we're a professional organization, we're not a corporate organization. We're also highly technical. We write a CPA exam, we grade it, we police the profession, and I think, you know, do your homework and know what the nature, what the personality, who are the members and who make up these groups. And, you know, the 4 of us sitting here are completely different memberships or backgrounds, in that my membership is all a volunteer membership, and we've got corporate memberships, we've got both, and we got a company. And so, you know, do the homework and know a little bit about the backgrounds of the people we work for.
What are your opinions on gifts to rooms? Good things, bad things, waste of time things, and also we were talking about in Detroit. Dolores, why don't you share some of your experiences on that?
Well, as I mentioned last night, Bob, I feel that it is going to less impress me if I come into a hotel and want to see the property. I only have a one-night stay, and in all sincerity, there are some very fine people in the hotel business who present me with a stack of fruit, without exaggeration, that high. I'm basically of German stock, and I can't see anything go to waste, and I cannot fit that in my suitcase. But the thing is, I think that there should be some sense of proportion in what you do, and I don't think there should be any truly separation of male or female meeting planner. You know, it's very nice, perhaps, for the female to honor her with wine in preference to